Hi, everybody. This is Jim Cornette, pro wrestling legend, and you're listening to the Book in the Territory Unprofessional Wrestling Podcast.
This is the artist formerly known as Daryl Van Horn, James Mitchell, the Sinister Minister, and I'm here to let you know I would rather slam my cock in a car door than to miss the dulcet tones of Hard Body Harper, my illegitimate son, on Booking the Territory podcast.
Woo, Messi, this is professional wrestler Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man. Tell my people, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare miss Booking the Territory. Oh, yeah.
This is the one-man gang. You're listening to Booking the Territory Pro Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to our World Class Cast. Today, Lance and I are doing World Class Championship Wrestling from May the 12th and the 19th of 1984, which is mostly the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions. I am sitting here with Lance, the man who was there that day, Lance Peterson, that is, at SMU Heavyweight on Twitter. He was there that day, and he's going to walk us through just a great time, I guess, to be a wrestling fan in Texas and for World Class. And yes, this is a bonus episode up on our free feed, so this will give you a little bit of taste of how it is, I guess, on the Patreon side of things, because Lance and I do these World Class shows every 2 weeks, so this will give you a taste of that. But without any further ado, let me welcome in the expert behind World Class Championship Wrestling, the man who was in the Sportatorium every single week, just about, minus a few times. But let me welcome in Mr. Lance Peterson at SMU Heavyweight on Twitter. Lance, you've been waiting for this for a while, so let me just throw it to you, and you just share your thoughts as we finally got to this moment.
Man, I've had a legal tablet next to me for the last few weeks, just writing notes after notes anytime I thought of something, and I checked the video out and see if it all matched up with what I was thinking. And so let's get into it. You know, we haven't had a taping since the Denton show that we watched. Then they had the best of. So we're here at Texas Stadium. But a couple of things I want to talk about the week of Texas Stadium. They had the week before, they had the 427 show at the Sportatorium, which wasn't filmed. And that's where Andre came back in. And that was the last time Andre was in World Class. It was Andre and Iceman again tagging against Kamala in the Link. But they didn't film it because they changed the filming around where they could film Texas Stadium and then the week after Texas Stadium at the Sportatorium to show, Kerry with the belt the week after. So, the night before the Texas Stadium show on May 6th, we had the Channel 11 show here locally, and it went out all over Texas kind of, and that was really the last push of the interviews. And on that show, they actually had Garvin do a squash. Kerry squashed him in about 30 seconds just to show he was ready for it. Also on the syndicated show that on that best of that we watched, they had edited out the interviews with different wrestlers talking about Kerry's chances versus Flair. And a lot of the heels, like Gary Hart, discussed how they thought that Kerry was going to beat Flair. So they were really pushing it, the fact that you were going to go to Texas Stadium, and most likely everybody thinks there's going to be a title change, which I thought was just genius, especially that was on the night before, on the Saturday night show, and then that Sunday, the Sunday of actual May 6th, they played that best of that we reviewed last week.
So there you go.
Yeah, and so let's get in the time. If you get in a time machine, I just wanted to go back to 1984 for 2 seconds. We were watching, Incredible Hulk, Dukes of Hazzard in Dallas. The number one song was Lionel Richie with Hello, and Fall Guy was on, USFL was on. That was the week Happy Days, the finale of Happy Days was on, and the number one movie was Breakin', which was a breakdance movie that it's kind of those that come out around that time. That actually has Ice-T in it somewhere, and Jean-Claude Van Damme is standing in the background during a dance scene. And that's not to be confused with Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo that came out later that year. So I just looked up some things to throw us back into the old days and stuff. You can actually go on YouTube and just put in a certain date, and it'll show commercials for around that time. And I put in May 6, 1984, and people have commercials from that day up. It's kind of crazy. But let's get into the actual show on May 6th. It's just a steamy, sweaty ocean stew of humanity. It was boiling. It was 93 degrees. And as you can see, as soon as they open up the show, everybody's just fanning themselves with their programs.
Lance,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to ask you one quick question as you're getting into this, because like you said, it was May 6th that it took place, and this is the first airing. They spread it out actually over 3 weeks. Most of the main stuff is out over the 2 weeks, so May 12th and May 19th of 84. You were there talking about how hot it was, hotter than thick thumb, baby. You were sitting where and how far from the ring?
So I was in the lower bowl, if you will. I wasn't ringside.
Okay.
So that kind of tells you. And I see the ring in these episodes. The ring is about at the 40-yard line. So, yeah, because I was looking at the hard camera, it's just a little off center. They moved it kind of over the few years. In 88, they move it back closer to the end zone. But here, when there's no seating. But here, it's about at the 40. And the seating is kind of in a horseshoe. They weren't at the end of Texas Stadium, which, you're going to see the empty seats at the far end. But, we're going to go with the figure of 32 to 36,000 people are there. There wasn't 43 that was the long time number. But about, 32 to 36. And
say 50,000 plus.
And Mark's saying that during the show, and he might have thought there was, but for me, I got out there at noon. It was me and a couple of buddies. My sister and her boyfriend took us, and we just tailgated, like it was a college game. We threw the football around, ate sandwiches and everything, and we could see the guys driving in. And I definitely remember Flair, driving in. He wasn't in a limo; he's kind of in a compact station wagon with several guys in the car with him. And Flair had spent the previous week in Portland, facing Brett Sawyer and Billy Jack. And Flair's talked about it before that he was hanging out with Piper right before he left for the Texas Stadium show. And the show started at 3 p.m., and we're not going to get to see the very first match, which was Johnny Mantell and Kelly Kaninsky in a 15-minute draw in the heat. Oh, my gosh. And actually, during that match, Johnny breaks Kelly's nose somehow. I don't know the move. I know that Johnny feels terrible about it. His wife did tell me that, though. And Kelly actually has to forfeit his TV title the next night. He can't defend it. I don't think he's there. But that's too bad we don't see it on the film. That was not filmed on the original airing either. Not that, the networks chopped a lot of stuff off, but that wasn't on the original airing either. And on the video right now, you can kind of see if you pause it right there, if you can see the end of the stadium doesn't have anybody, so you can see the end, but there's people all the way down there to maybe the 15-yard line on that one side. If hit play now. On the
you can see. Keep in mind, not everybody's
seeing the Patriot, right? Right. I forget that we're video. I forgot we're doing a free show, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but anyways, that kind of gives you a feeling. You can see everybody just fanning themselves and going crazy. One thing I want to mention right here is that where is Bruiser Brody? Shouldn't Bruiser Brody have come back in for a memorial card like this? It seems kind of crazy. He was only 100 miles down the road in wrestling in Temple, Texas, versus Joe LeDuc for Southwest. But it seems like he could have fit really well into one of these matches. I would have maybe brought him in to go against the Link, or put him one of those guys either against Kamala or against Kabuki in that next match. But they were working pretty close with Mid-South here and there. So, I can see, especially this time next year, they'll really be working with Mid-South. There'll be all those, the guys will all be going up to Mid-South TV, and then several of them coming down for the second Texas Stadium show.
Yeah, I mean, you got Dog and you got Butch Reed on this show, just to name two. Mid-South guys. Just there you have it. So, all right, Lance. So you gave us some background, talked about where you were sitting for this, and I mean, you can see it if you are a Patreon subscriber, you can kind of see what we're looking at. It was pretty packed. I mean, that's the far end where the Link is standing up, and they're shooting towards the far end of the stadium. But I mean, the lower bowl to about the 15-yard line on the opposite side of where the ring is, I'll call it, is pretty full. And Dog and Link are about to go at it. And I'm going to turn it over to you, man. This is your expertise. You're the world-class man. So what do you have from JYD and the Link as the Link tries to jumpstart things, but Dog is not having it?
Well, I like it when we saw him come to the ring. There's no guardrails. The wrestlers are just walking amongst the people. I think it looks so cool that they're coming through the crowd and, nobody's bothering them. They're getting to the ring and, there's plenty of security around them. Well, I say plenty. There's not a crazy amount, but it just looks great. And look at the Link just going crazy right here to start this matchup. I mean, he is so energetic. I mean, it would have fit well with the early 93 stuff, 83 stuff that we watched last year. He's just got so much energy. We see George Napolitano and Bill Apter of the magazines are just around ringside taking all the great photos. They got so many great photos that day. It's unbelievable, that both of them are there. They start off fast, and as we saw, Link went outside the ring. The sun is what kicks my butt on this. Watching this, the glare is. And the shadows are just really annoying, and it's for these first few matches, and then it'll calm down for the big main events. But right now, if you're watching on your TV, the glare is kind of a pain in certain areas, and it definitely affects the picture quality. It's a simple win, a simple match, but it's fun. I like it a lot. I see some people, don't think much of this match, but it's fun. Akbar grabs JYD's feet, and Link gets the pin. JYD, I don't think he was immediately out of Mid-South, but he was with the WWE by August of '84, so he's getting ready to go.
All right, so any other thoughts? I don't want to add anything to what you got there with Dog, because I mean he's pretty much.
I want to say one more thing at the 8-minute mark. Can you go right there? It's after the match. They reversed the decision after the pin, and Link, Link gets the steps, and he's madder than hell, and he's throwing up in the air, and he just drops him down, and they just start rolling right towards. I'm watching on the video of Akbar going crazy, but Link grabs the steps and starts banging the steps on his head, and then just kind of drops him in a second, and the people on the front row kind of just have to use their feet to stop the steps from hitting them. And so it's a different time, just a really different time. But good stuff to start the show.
Yeah, I mean, to clarify the finish from what Lance was saying was basically Dog got pinned, but Akbar was holding his leg. And Bronco Lubitsch runs in, and he's like, no, this is horse crap. It's not happening. Bronco reverses the decision, and I guess JYD is awarded the win by DQ. And that was that match. JYD is the winner in the first match that they televised on the March 12th, 1984 episode from Texas Stadium. Okay, so Lance, the next match is Buck Zumhofe and Iceman King Parsons versus the Super Destroyers. They announce a one-fall 60-minute time limit at the start of the match, and I'll leave the rest to you.
Well, once again, the musical editors screw us, and we miss out on the creepiness of Buck Zumhofe coming out to "We Are Family," which is wrong if you know his history. Hey, you can't deny Ice's charisma and Buck's energy. The sun, it gets a lot better, at least for the wrestlers during this match. There's still a lot of sun that's hitting the crowd on the opposite side of the hard camera. I like the finish, the pin, and it's a fun match. I just, wasn't that into it. The people get pretty crazy though. It's great to see a tag, a championship change hands. Everybody's into Iceman versus Devastation, and Iceman gets a pin at starting his second run as a tag team champion. Unfortunately, that last time he won it, he held it for basically a month, for 36 days. This little title reign's only going to be 13 days. I mean, they take the belts off him really fast, but then Iceman's still going to be fighting for him over the next couple months.
Yeah, it was kind of like they just wanted, I don't know, everything to be positive on this show. You almost get that feeling.
Yeah.
And Iceman, he hit one of the Super Ds with the butt, and then he pins him, and him and Buck Zumhofe, who is just come in, hasn't been in there that long at all, is all of a sudden tag champs. And the people, well, they loved it. They went crazy for Iceman and Zumhofe here. So it is what it is. It's funny looking back at it. You don't think about this when you're young, but it is weird when you look back and you see him winning and Iceman winning his tag titles. And yeah, that's all I'll say. That's all I got. Lance, anything else?
I think anybody listening to this knows about Buck Zumhofe's history in the last few years, so we don't have to go over that.
Yeah, if you Google it if you don't know. All right. So we then go to the Bad Street USA Video World TV premiere, the music video. I've seen this one too many times, and
yeah,
that's all I got. You
yeah,
got anything else?
Keep on rolling. No, I've seen it plenty.
Okay. So then we go straight to the next match, which is the Von Erichs, which remember is going to be Fritz, Kevin, and Mike versus the Freebirds, of course, Gordy, Roberts, and Hayes. And remember, the stipulation is, should the Von Erichs win, Kerry can take, even though Fritz is in this match, Kerry will take Fritz's place going forward, quote unquote, if they win. Lance, let me go to, I want to go to a certain mark point in this, because I want to play something that David Manning mentions on the microphone.
Yeah, David Manning has to get his shit in.
Here it is. Let's hear it. This is before the match. Let's listen to what David Manning has to say.
All right, listen up. Listen up. There's no rules in this match, but there's one rule we're going to enforce. It's a tag team match. Only one of you comes in the ring. And that's the way it's going to be. There'll be two people in the ring at once. No six-man. And if you don't like it, you'll find yourself 2 against 3. It's going to be one-on-one in the ring, and you can tag in and out. And that goes for the Von Erichs, too. You understand?
I was just standing in the ring.
David Manning reminding all parties concerned that there will be rules in this bout, and it is a tag team bout. One man at a time from each team. The world six-man title. Next for the world title, most prestigious belt in all of the world.
All right, so I just want to point out something, Lance, before you take this match and run with it. One, they don't listen to David Manning. You'll see that. You'll hear Lance talk about that shortly. This whole one person in the ring, and not going to be 6 of y'all in there. Yeah, whatever. They blew him off like he didn't even say it. 2, have you ever talked to Kevin Von Erich? What the hell did he cut his finger on, for those who don't know?
All right. So, they had the Von Erichs had kind of fought their way into the ring when the Freebirds had gotten to the ring first. And Gordy throws one chair into the ring at him, and then he goes around and he stomps on another chair for a second and then just launches it at Fritz. And Kev deflects it and slices up his finger. And I did verify that's the one thing I bothered Kevin Von Erich about, and I did get it from him, that it was the chair headed for his dad that cut his finger. And so he's bleeding all over the place.
Yeah, he got a nice little nick on his finger. A nice little juice job going before the match even started as he stopped that chair from hitting his father. So anyway, I just I figured that would be good to clarify what the hell Kevin cut his finger on, as these 6 guys go then to start beating the hell out of each other. You want to take over from here and talk about this match where it's definitely not one-on-one. I mean, they kind of started that way, but man, it doesn't take long to break down.
It's first of all, I just want to say I think it's one of the best produced big matches of world class. I mean, there's great cam work. Everything on this is just storybook perfect, with the crowd just so nuts. Suddenly huge Texas stadium becomes very intimate. I mean, everybody's eyes are on the ring. You're not worried about fanning yourself or the sweat. This is as hot as it gets right here. You had Kevin start, then you had Mike come into the ring and do some moves with Buddy. And that's almost all they used Mike for right there. Actually, Mike and Terry Gordy's in for a little bit in a second, but Mike and Terry Gordy are not the main players in this at all. It is all about, getting Fritz in there and the crowd going nuts. So,
they go nuts real quick. When Fritz came in, let me rewind. I want the people to hear the noise that takes place when Fritz gets tagged in here. So Hayes is dealing on Mike Von Erich right now, and then Fritz is getting ready to get tagged in. Listen to this.
boots. How can anyone stand his punishment? There's a body slam. Hayes goes to the corner. Look out. Mike Von Erich out of the way. Here comes Fritz. The crowd leaps to its feet. They're standing at Texas Stadium.
All right, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just it's maybe a little hard to hear, but you see the crowd; they kind of just erupt when Fritz gets tagged in.
Yeah, the music on the entrances gets cut out, but they don't cut out this sound. This sound is the second best thing going on in these shows. We like the music, the entrances get you revved up, but right here, this place is just nuts. And Mark Lawrence on commentary just helps, accentuate the fever pitch. I think he's great on this. I like it so much better than Bill Mercer being on commentary. It was a Sunday. Bill Mercer was probably doing commentary for North Texas or something. That's the reason he wasn't there on a Sunday filming. But Mark is there, and he seems to be doing it live. He's got the camera monitor with a box around it, kind of giving him some shade so he can see. I kind of looked at it a few times to see if it looked like he was doing a commentary live, and it certainly appears to. He took the headphones off right when he stopped talking later in the show or on the next episode. It's just incredible. I wanted you to go to the 28:40 mark, and this is where it really goes. This is the main section of this match. What it is you got Fritz and Hayes. Fritz takes off his belt and spanks Hayes while Mike's holding him. And, the belt thing's just always over in Von Erich mythology. Von Erich mythology tells us Fritz, whipped the boys when they deserved it and all this. I'm not sure, but that happened all the time. But, in mythology, Fritz used the belt on the boys, and, the belt was always something. And in a possible wrestling first right here, Fritz puts his belt back on after whipping him. Which is kind of funny and stuff. Let's go to 32:06 on the video. And what I was going to talk about right here is right after the headbutt, Hayes is going to use the blade. And you're going to see that in his left hand for just forever. He must be left-handed because he certainly blades with his left hand, and then he has it in there forever as they go to the double claw move. You've got the claw of Michael Hayes. Buddy Roberts is going to jump off the corner rope, but instead Fritz is going to catch him with his left hand and have both of them in the claw. And there's a great picture in the Dallas paper the next morning of Fritz with the claw on both of them. And it's not something new, the double claw. It's something he had done in his career to the Blackjacks and others. It's just something new for the modern teenage kids, to see it during the heyday that Fritz is here, because it's been 2 years and there's just a ton of new fans at this point. All six are in the ring. Hayes has bladed. He's just juiced all he can, and he's got a crimson mask. Basically, we just don't get too many close-ups of it. When Kevin pins Roberts with a crossbody off the top rope, he pins Buddy, who I'm not sure if he was the legal man, but that's for down the road. So after the match, they're still going to be brawling. And
here's the pin. Here's the pin right here.
Here's the pin right there. 1, 2, 3. I was trying to talk to the people that weren't watching on the deal.
Did you see the eruption from the fans? I mean, they go, like, I know we oftentimes talk on this show, Doc, Harper, and I, or even you when you're on an NWA show, it's like, back then it was just the emotion you felt watching it, and you literally see it. Kevin Von Erich comes off the rope right there, and as we're watching along, 1, 2, 3, the eruption, the fans like, holy crap, they won the 6-man titles. And it just was a different time. We'll never get that back, but I just had to point that out, and stop you for a second. So, but go ahead. Just a good moment. You were about to start talking about, the celebration in the ring.
Oh, it's just great, and they're celebrating. But as soon as they're celebrating, they kind of go back after the Von Erichs, and as Mark Lawrence says, a big mean Oriental. Who is this big mean Oriental who comes in and starts putting a spike on Kevin in the corner? And the Freebirds are getting the best of the Von Erichs. They're all paired off, and Kevin's eating this spike until finally he has to come in and start clearing the ring.
So you hadn't seen had you seen Khan? The huge Oriental that Mark Lawrence is talking about is Killer Khan, but he doesn't have a name. They don't name him in this episode. He just comes in at the end and he starts fighting with the Von Erichs, and Fritz is potatoing him over there. But anyway, had you seen Khan in Mid-South in '82 or no?
I did know who Killer Khan was from magazines. Usually it was always that Andre story of him breaking Andre's leg, that thing. But no, I didn't know who he was when he came to the ring right here. I was too far away. I could see somebody bald. I just couldn't, I didn't know who he was. They didn't announce it at all. It was pretty quick too. If you're there live, we're all cheering. I mean, that went pretty fast in real time, if you will. It's a big stadium. All you can see is that some guy has come in the ring, and you're not even sure if it's a fan, because you're not getting the commentary, kind of far away and everything. And it really was quick in real life. Yeah,
I'm with you there. All right, so Lance, good little recap right there from the May 12th episode, and that was for the purposes of that episode that aired that week. That was the quote unquote main event of the episode, meaning they didn't air the full stadium show. So we got that one on this week's main event. So any other closing thoughts as we then jump to the May 19th, 1984 episode of World Class, which will air the big NWA World Heavyweight title match?
Now, one more thing on that Killer Khan. He's coming in as the Freebird ally. Supposedly he's the one that took Gordy to learn to use the spike, to whoever taught him the spike. So here we are. We've got a new guy in the mix, a Freebird monster, if you will. And because we're getting some comings and goings during this card and then next week. So he is in for the next year, or for the next 6 months. And Mark Lawrence actually on that episode, then at the end, does announce that Kerry wins the world title and that he will see it next week. They did it that way.
Yeah, which was kind of weird, but I guess the people did. I mean, you didn't mind back then because it was a different world. But so assuming you had no idea, which was very possible because it's May 12th, 84, assuming you didn't know that Kerry won it on the 6th, Mark Lawrence tells us all at the end of the episode that Kerry did win the NWA World Heavyweight title, but we will see the entire match next week. So if you weren't there, you were there, so you knew. But if you were like me and watched this and weren't there and then paid attention to this episode, you were like, oh, damn, I definitely got to watch next week because it's the only way I could see it. There was no YouTube and all that other stuff like we always talk about. Anyway, Lance, any other thoughts on the May 12th episode?
No, that's going to do it.
All right, so we go then to May 19th, 1984, and you said it a second ago, and I made a note at this point. Mark Lawrence is doing a fabulous job on commentary. He is so much better than Bill Mercer.
When people put down Mark, I think it's just they just haven't listened to him. I think it's just the frenzy, the pace that he keeps here. It's great.
Yeah, he's better. I mean, he's so much better than Bill Mercer. But, that's not me trying to tear apart Bill Mercer. That's just saying Mark Lawrence did so much of a better job. Now, with all that said, we jump into the very first match on the May 19th, 1984 episode, which again is still from Texas Stadium. And we have Butch Reed versus Chick Donovan. One thing I didn't mention because we got rolling really quickly was they announced Butch Reed the same way they announced JYD. They said hailing from Louisiana. So they said the exact same thing about the dog when they announced him in the very first match that we did previously. So anyway, I don't have much from this. Butch Reed wins with a shoulder tackle, a flying shoulder tackle, and he wins by pinfall. But Lance, what did you have from it?
No, the shoulder tackle. And I believe that this match happened after the world title and before the mixed tag. Now, I believe this was the second to last match actually on the show. If you look at it like that, the first match was that Mantell and Kaninsky. The second match was Dog and the Link. The third match is Kamala and Kabuki, which we'll see next week. So that's how that worked.
Okay, good point. That the way they're airing it on the TV is they're airing it out of sequence, and that had happened in real life at the stadium. So,
this is our squash match. This is the one not in the bathroom break, definitely of the show.
There you go, and that's not a shot at Chick Donovan or Butch Reed. It's just saying compared to what else was on the card that day, right?
Yeah, we didn't have a vested interest. It's still not a vested interest in Butch Reed, unfortunately. I knew he was, of course, but, the local fans, he hadn't done anything. Chick had barely been in and stuff, and barely, we'd seen him on Channel 11, I'm sure, eat a few pins by now. So we didn't think much of it.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. I mean, I was a big Butch Reed fan, but for the world class audience, you didn't have any type of investment in him at this point. I mean, there was nothing. I don't know. You couldn't sink your teeth in anything. There was no emotional investment, and we all know if there's no emotional investment, it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around a story. So there you go. All right. Well, let's get to it, Lance. The reason we're, I guess, here, and we wanted to watch this episode, and the reason you could not wait to get to May of 1984, and it is because the NWA World Heavyweight Champion and the championship is on the line with Ric Flair versus Kerry Von Erich for all the gold when it mattered. And I don't know what else to say other than to throw it to you and say, go ahead and have at it and give me your thoughts on this thing after you've watched it for the 5 millionth time, right?
It is the 5 millionth, and it from start to finish, from the locker room to the locker room of this match is a spectacle. It's not the match of the year by any candid, and it's short, but coming out of the locker room is one of the coolest visuals you can have, and it sounded great. Flair did not come out to music, but it's so cool to see him coming through just a sea of people. I just love that. That blue robe that Flair's in is going to always be my favorite of his robes. He wore that at the State Fair show a year earlier that we had seen here in Dallas. So, that's always going to be my favorite Flair robe. If Kerry's going to come out in a second, we're going to see Kerry. What they did is they played Tom Sawyer for a minute and got everybody revved up, and then they cut the Tom Sawyer and they played When I Die by Tanya Tucker. David hadn't come out to that much, but everybody knew what that meant, especially with, once everybody saw the robe. And on the Patreon video right here, you're going to see that everybody goes to their feet when that music hits. And this is just, classic. I mean, it's just so great for everybody that's following him, following the brothers, following, the death of David. This is it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say, man. It's
I'm going to go into it. I just thought I'd give you a second. Anything you could say about the entrances.
No, the entrances were great. Like you said, Flair comes out, and it's unbelievable when you see him come out to the Sea of Humanity, and then Kerry comes out, and I mean, you look at it, it's amazing. He's trying to navigate his way through to the ring, and the people there, like you said, there's no barricades, so he's like, they're trying to guide him through, and the amount of security, it's unreal. I mean, there's 6, 7, 8 guys working their way between security guards, arena security, police officers, and Kerry's getting grabbed and hugged as he enters the ring. It's or finally gets past that point where he can get in. There's only a rope in the way, like separating the ring from the people. This is, I don't know how else to put it, man. I've seen this. I haven't seen it as many times as you, but I've seen it enough to go. This was so big. It kind of. I mean, my hair doesn't stand up on my arms or anything, but it gives me a little bit of chills every time I turn it on, because it's just it's like you're watching it and you kind of envision yourself. Like for me, I would envision myself as a 9-year-old watching it, whereas I know you don't. You were a little older, but you just kind of like envision yourself and go, wow, I kind of remember seeing this so long ago. It's amazing that it's been all these years. Like like this is 35 years ago, man. It's like that's hard to wrap my mind around. Like, it feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
It does feel like a lifetime ago. It's amazing, and it's such a clarity on this production. Look how it's a beautiful screen of the match, and that's what I think. There's no problem. And I'm the first one to say I hate outdoor shows. I hate it when WrestleMania starts and it's light outside. I like it dark so I can focus on the ring myself. But this is just, there's so many good pictures and so many of in the magazines and magazine covers on this, and that robe just shining in the sun. I think Dave Milliken has that jacket now. Somebody had it online and had it for $1 billion for years, and I don't know the whole story on the jacket. The pictures I've seen of it, it looked, like it'd gotten pretty dingy in travels. In some of these ring jackets, they look fantastic on these guys, but when you just see it, over in the corner or pictures we see now, the jackets don't look anything. It's almost, it's like the wrestlers make the jacket sometimes. I really do believe that. So the match is, Kerry put his hand up, a second ago to show that he could see all the fans up in the upper deck, because there are people in the upper deck. The upper deck's not full, but there's plenty of people. And Mark Lawrence says, okay, here we go. It's all built to this. The match just starts, as I said, a classic visual, ultimate baby face of the day. And it looks like a true athletic contest. There's not a lot of bullshit going on during this. It looks like, two guys having a wrestling match with, not too much mess. There's a little begging off by Flair in there, but I wanted you to go to the 15-20 mark on the video if you can. I think that's where the great sequence is, the power slam. There's the abdominal stretch, the throw off the corner, all the, classic Flair stuff. I just, it's just beautiful.
I'm with you, man. The scene of Texas Stadium and how packed that building is. I don't like outdoor shows either, but this outdoor scene with the amount of people that are there is tremendous. As Flair is just bumping and Kerry's just winding up and hitting them, man. This is good stuff. Go ahead. I didn't mean to.
I love that. That power slam, and I know somebody online has such a great picture of that press, and I'm going, that's the best picture that I never took. But I love that. I wish I'd been down there for that picture, because it is really awesome. The fans, we haven't seen Kerry basically in a month. He was on the TV show the night before, as I said, the Channel 11, but he had been in Japan for several weeks and everything. So it was everybody was kind of fresh to see him. You might have seen that guy on the front row, the old man who wears the red or blue jumpsuit sportorium. There he is yelling at Flair. He's wearing a yellow shirt with a yellow tie. That's Johnny Reed, who passed away at a reunion show years later.
Wait, Lance, let me stop you real quick. Is that the guy that his teeth flew out?
That's him.
Okay.
That is
okay.
definitely
So
him. He's wearing yellow with a yellow tie.
Yeah, so you don't really get a good glimpse of him, but I posted it on Twitter probably by the time this drops, maybe a month or so ago, and the guy was so excited. I had no idea he passed away in the Sportatorium, like he had a heart attack, I guess.
At a Reunion Arena show, Front Row Reunion Arena.
Okay, so Front Row Reunion Arena, correct me if I'm wrong, Lance, he had a heart attack, medical was called, but he literally had a heart attack at a wrestling show.
Yeah, and they carted him off on the stretcher. I don't know if he died right there, but he died pretty fast. Watch these kids on that video. There's two kids. They start to come over when Kerry gets thrown out, and you can hear the usher scooting them away. They're actually sitting in the seats of Miss Texas. Miss Texas had been sitting in those seats when she came out earlier. Anyways, Kerry, they see there's the leg scissors. That's important, because in a minute, Mark at the pin will say something. It's just great. On that man. Yeah, I think it was 87 when he passed away. It might have been Thanksgiving 86. I actually have that obituary and everything when he died. There was another old couple in Fort Worth, and the man died. In fact, Kevin Von Erich years ago said that the guy died in his arms there at Fort Worth at the matches. So, all those shows had these older people, and that man was around a long time.
His teeth literally flew out of his mouth cheering for the Von Erichs in that Sportatorium clip that I posted on Twitter about a month and a half ago from the time this airs. But so here we are. I mean, we're starting to get to the finish of this thing with Flair and Kerry. And, Lance, did you think going into this you were going to see a title change that night?
I kept saying, are they going to give him the title? And I was saying that to myself, are they going to give him the title? I knew exactly how this worked. I guess everybody else kind of figured they did, anybody that was associated with the company. What I did, I asked Mark Lawrence at a show years ago, I said, did they tell you he was going to win? And he said, They kind of hinted at it. That's as much as he would say, but I know he knew. Mark it was nobody's fool. He was paying attention at the production meetings. If Bill Mercer may not have been during, but Mark was paying attention. Mark had to say so much more during his Channel 11 Saturday night show. He was the host of the Saturday night Channel 11 show, and he had to keep up with so much more stuff. He really kept the storyline going far more than Bill Mercer ever thought about doing. And Mark had to sell you on the weekly house shows, and Mark was the one telling us every week how fortunate we were that we could have all these house shows all over the place, and we could see a Von Erich every night, things like that, which was true. We had these local rock stars, and you're going to see more about that in that Dark Side of the Ring that's going to come out May 1st on those documentaries. That's going to say a lot about how these guys were treated locally. Just incredible when they pull up somewhere, go to Six Flags and do an autograph signing. Just how insanely popular it was. And Kerry's going to get most popular of the year in everything this year.
You mentioned how Lawrence kind of knew. Wild Bill told me he knew.
Oh, okay.
So, and he was just in a tag match against Iceman. I say Wild Bill. He was one of the Super Ds. Obviously, most people know, but Wild Bill said, yeah, I knew. At least that's what he says now. I don't know.
Well, they didn't have to worry about getting out social media like anybody backstage. It wasn't going to get out to the whole crowd. Now, if something like that happened backstage, everybody finds out on social media in 5 minutes.
Oh, Jesus. It would take one person to tweet it out. Like it could take a pissed off WWE talent to say, screw this, I'm going to post about it. And it's on Twitter and it's around the world in 60 seconds.
Okay, there's the Kerry. Flair gets him with one shoulder tackle. And this is the claw. This is the claw for a second. We got to get the claw in there for just a minute. Get everybody's signature stuff in on this match. It really is everybody's signature stuff. Eventually, I'm going to talk about the end. Flair tries to get Kerry in the figure 4 a couple times, and Kerry kicks him off. Flair goes for a shoulder tackle on Kerry. He goes for a second shoulder tackle, but Kerry goes to hip toss him. Flair blocks the hip toss. Kerry reverses, hooks him with the backslide, and 1, 2, 3, no controversy at all. And he's the new champ. I'm going faster than the video, but I'm trying not to look at the video so I can think about the people watching this, listening to this in the cars or whatever.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that because we're going to get to it shortly. But I can remember talking to Doc about this a while back, and we didn't do a whole episode on this, but we were talking about just how Kerry won, and the manner in which he won was kind of incredible when you think about it, because it was the hip toss got blocked, then he goes into a backslide, and the backslide, he wins in the backslide. You're just like, holy crap, he just won the NWA World title with just a simple backslide. And I know like modern fans would be like, what?
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. But if you watch the backslide, see, Kerry is supposed to be strong enough that he's able to hold the shoulders down in that backslide. And here goes the finish. There's the 2 kickouts. He's going to kick out a second figure 4 attempt, and they're gonna bring it home. Flair right there. There's the shoulder tackle. Kerry's down. Kerry pops back up. There's the tries for hip top. There it is. He turns him and into the backslide. Kerry's hands are up on his shoulder, and he's pushing him down. See, it makes total sense.
Yeah, when you watch it, because it's not like sometimes the guys will go into the backslide and they don't have their arms, their palms of their hands like on the guy's shoulders. They just kind of are just sitting in the position. But
right,
it kind of made sense. But like, here's the thing. I don't know if and somebody out there is gonna tweet me and say no, they would give me an example, but I don't know of another example where a title as prestigious as this one at that time, for obvious reasons, was won with the backslide. And you see it. I mean, if you're a patron of ours at tinyurl.com/patreonbtt, the fans, they are losing it, man. They're going nuts. It's an unreal scene, man. And I don't know, Lance, you were there. Tell us what you thought at this moment as a lifelong world-class fan.
Well, it's crazy. I really hadn't been watching that long, only a couple of years, and here my babyface hero of my territory has won the belt, which is I did know how crazy that was, because no, that wasn't happening. I understood the traveling world champion, and here it is. They've given him the title. They really have. As far as the backslide, at that point, I was kind of like, yeah, backslide. That is different. We haven't seen it, but we had seen it in I'd seen it in prelim matches. We saw, I think, Jose Lothario try one. We had seen David do it on the Christmas show. David was also wearing those same style tights at Christmas. So the tights match what David was wearing at his Christmas defense. So that's kind of something, I put on Twitter a while back. Side-by-side pictures of both of them doing the backslide in their respective matches. It's just crazy. I mean, you're suspending all disbelief. They've given it, but it's a party. Holy cow! He has won the title. I mean, where are we going to go from here? He's fixing to go off and defend this title around the world. Are you kidding me? And there's no controversy, and it's a beautiful, he's holding him down. There's no shoulder accidentally up, no nothing. It's 1, 2, 3, no controversy. And, all those guys hitting the ring is fantastic. You got Donovan, Mantell, Adams, Chick, Junkyard Dog's out there, but you never get a close-up shot of him. But he's right there. There he is. He's wearing a hat. He's out there
hat,
too.
Jeans, and a button-up shirt on. Yeah.
And Chris Adams is getting in the way of those good magazine cover pictures right there. Kerry's taking these belts, and Chris Adams won't get the hell out of the way. That kills me, because those are some of the best magazine covers of Kerry holding that belt. And I'm looking on here, and I'm like, Adams, get out of the freaking way.
Yeah, he really was for a while. But yeah, man, a big moment, man. I don't know what else we can say about it.
Yeah, Kerry's going to go back out, kind of get a second round of applause from everybody, and then we're going to head back to the locker room. Now, the thing about going back to the locker room, these shows, the 1st of May, this was probably Mother's Day. Most of these Texas stadiums were on Mother's Day, and they would bring Doris out and give her flowers before the show. You just see her come, she just right out of the locker room, not come to the ring, and the boys would give her flowers, and that had probably happened earlier in the show. I'm sure it did, because it happened on 2 or 3 of those shows, being Mother's Day. But as Kerry makes it back to the locker room right before he gets to the tunnel, Fritz and Doris are right there to congratulate him. And, it's just a hell of a scene, as I said, from the Flair coming out to the locker room to Kerry going back in the locker room at the end. It's just classic. It's fantastic. It's my home territory, and it's just great.
Yeah, don't tell me this is fake. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's real emotion.
That Fritz wanted all those boys, seriously, to have the title. He had stayed loyal to NWA. It's the fact that NWA changed on him. If Sam Mushnick wasn't running the title anymore, it was a Crockett belt. And so, things were changing. Otherwise, there's no doubt that Kerry and Kevin would have gotten the belts. We'll talk about it next year, what I thought going into the second Texas Stadium where Kevin goes against Flair. We'll talk about that down the road. Now, what I hate about this, and I made sure, because I'm thinking in my mind, there's another interview here, but we don't get it. There is a locker room interview with Kerry and Fritz and them in the locker room, and we don't get it at all. Don't know the thing about it. I'm going to try to see. I can't find it on YouTube. Most people on YouTube are using the Legends of World Class show, or the episodes that they show. And I actually thought that that's how they pieced this together. I had heard that the master tape of this episode was damaged, that these were ones they kept the Sportatorium. But I don't know. I just can't give you a good answer on that. So that's fun. I hate that we missed the locker room interview. We're going to see a couple more interviews, one at the Sportatorium next week, and there was one in Fort Worth with him with the belt. So we'll get some more stuff.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I've got the one where you're talking about where he's at the Sportatorium. But, Lance, any other thoughts on what went down?
No, but you got to maybe my favorite part of the day right here. This was a big surprise. And I did not know. I'll tell you after you play it. Play it right here, and I'll tell you what I thought as a fan being there.
Yeah, so real quick, obviously Kerry wins the belt, and like Lance said, we don't get that locker room interview on the episode that's on the network, but we then we go straight from Kerry going to the back to Chris Adams and Sunshine versus Jimmy Garvin and Precious as they come out to the ring. We go straight to that match, but it is interrupted at the very beginning by the one and only Gino Hernandez, and let's hear what Gino's got to say.
to gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. In the meantime, Precious is removing the wild paraphernalia. What is this?
I've heard it one time. I've heard it 10,000 times today that this is the greatest wrestling card of all time. Well, so what if the Von Erichs swept the world titles? So what if there's 50,000 of you here? No card is the greatest wrestling card of the world without Gino Hernandez, the handsome half-breed. Furthermore, I don't know what these two mentally deranged females are doing in a ring. And you call yourself gorgeous. And you washed up punk. Come 2 weeks from now, whichever one of you washed up past bands is champ. San Juan, Puerto Rico, you'll be all mine.
Well, the words of Gino Hernandez making a challenge to the winner of this bout.
Shut up!
Let's go on.
All right, Lance, your thoughts on Gino interrupting the start of this match?
In person, I couldn't understand what he was saying. Just the echo, and that happens at Raw a lot. You can't hear sometimes in the ring what's going on. All I could hear was that it was Gino Hernandez. I thought I heard him say that. And with that said, boom, that's the change right there to me. This is the heyday halfway point right here. We have started with Christmas '82 to Texas Stadium, and now we're going to go Texas Stadium through the end of '85. And Gino is now the new top singles act. Basically discounted, Adams and Garvin right there. I could give a shit about Garvin and Adams now that Gino has hit the ring and a whole new world is opening up. But we're going to go on. I could go on and on about Gino. We're going to have plenty of time for that. But let me just say that is exactly where I feel the change. Every time I watch this episode and I'm thinking we're going to see this match and Gino comes in the ring and I'm not thinking about it, I go, oh, whoa, this is the change right here. In Heroes of World Class, I just wanted to throw out this comment that Mercer says, we're just glad to see Gino back. They really liked him backstage. He's a, good soldier, a workhorse. He's young, but he's a veteran. He's just been around so long. And I'm going to skip over some of his bio stuff and just go into the match because his timeline is just interesting, but he'd been going 11 years at this time.
Talking about Gino, you mean?
Yeah, just talking about Gino.
Yeah.
We got plenty of time to talk about him in the next next episodes.
Yeah, we're gonna have plenty of time because it's just a real quick snippet. We don't even know who to. I say we. Obviously, in hindsight, we know who he is. We got all his background, but going along with the storyline, if we were calling this like it was straight right now, we'd go, "Who the hell is this guy? What the hell is he talking about?" There's a lot of people who are thinking that at that moment, but Lance is right. In future Patreon shows for World Class at tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT, become a patron. There's 150, 160, 70 plus episodes up at this time. One thing Lance knows is World Class's history very well. Not only that, but all the wrestlers who came through World Class. He will tell you and elaborate a lot on Gino Hernandez because he keeps talking about it and has been talking about it for a couple months now, which is a beautiful thing. So that's why he does the World Class shows with me. But I wanted to point that out as you're about to, go through the finish of Adam, Sunshine, Garvin, and Precious here.
The girls are dressed, but it's not a TNA show at all. It's regular girls pissed off, and they finally have a match.
They
Sunshine
got a personal issue, Lance.
Yeah. There's, it's not like we're waiting to see them get stripped or we're seeing their G-strings like in the ECW with Beulah and all that. We're just seeing them get after it. Sunshine wants in, but it's Adams and Garvin there. They're going to start. And finally, Sunshine gets tagged in. She's going to, Precious is going to kind of hesitate, but Sunshine's going to, pull the top rope and flip Precious on over, and then she's going to catapult her in the corner. Precious will finally escape.
This is awesome right here. When
the crowd just goes nuts.
Sunshine gets tagged in, and Precious is like, "I ain't fucking getting in there," and then she whips her in, and the crowd is going apeshit. I had to point that out, but go ahead.
It's great. She didn't want to do this at all. Precious, he had to beg her to do it, and she became the valet for like 5 years. She didn't want to do it. Sunshine had never seen a match in her life when she drove to Dallas with Garvin, and Garvin was explaining what she needed to do. The original Garvin video where James Day Dillon gives Garvin a valet was put up on YouTube just a few months ago and has the original Precious on it. But Garvin has said that that was kind of causing problems. That he'd been married a long time, and here he's got this new valet. So the idea to go with Sunshine, his cousin, was the idea, and he had to teach her everything. And amazing that they hit such home runs on both these girls. Just incredible.
Yeah, this has been a long storyline played out over. Wow, when did this start? We're in May now. What did it start in October, September?
Yeah, they had their falling out on Halloween of '83 was when the whole Sunshine thing went down. Then Chris Adams did the Avenger thing, and we saw the title change at Thanksgiving. We saw the girls were supposed to get 5 minutes in the ring if Adams won at Christmas, and they screwed everybody over on that. I always talk about how I wasn't there, but I felt so bad that they screwed the crowd on Christmas of getting that. But I think it was all to stretch it out to here. In between this, they've had cage matches where the girls were in the cage, but this is like the first bout that they were going to have against each other.
Lance,
go ahead.
I want to say real quick, man. So Chris is obviously juicing at this moment while Garvin is holding him down on the canvas, and Chris hits the turnbuckle and then goes down, and you can see the blood. Look at Bronco; he lifts his head up to look at him like. To see if he was bleeding. It's funny when you look at Bronco because
it really is. That was kind of insane that he lifted his head. That's really is strange that he would do that. Funny.
Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. But go ahead, man. I hate to cut you off.
No problem. There, Sunshine gets a tag finally for the second time, but Garvin's in the middle of the ring and he trips so that Precious gets the upper hand on Sunshine. It's some good stuff, but I'm trying to get.
The camera
where we're at,
bad because what happens is, Precious and we don't even see the pinfall. Adams rolls up Garvin, but the camera doesn't catch it, and I don't know. They had that hard camera set up fine, but they pan to I guess a ringside camera, and we don't even see.
There it is. Yeah,
the girls are fighting, and then Adams sunset flips, I guess, Garvin, and the pin happens and you don't even see it. So, long story short, Adams and Sunshine end up getting a win over Garvin and Precious, but you don't even see the pinfall. It's just a minor thing. I mean, that's one thing that you just that doesn't happen nowadays. You pretty much see all the pinfalls in the major moments. But anyway, long story short, I guess this feud is finally starting to wind down, but I'll let you recap it all.
Amen. It is getting, getting to be over with. Give me the hard camera. All I needed was that. It's terrible they missed it. I do think it was a sunset flip, but at the end, Adams and Sunshine are holding their hands up, and Precious comes up behind Sunshine and wallops her with the purse a couple of times, and they're off to the locker room, Garvin and Precious, while all of a sudden here comes Sunshine and Adams, and she races and chases her down. I can't believe as much of a head start she had, and she catches up with her, and that's pretty wild. The crowd is just going nuts here as they fight right before they go up the tunnel. So they're right there below the crowd. Next year it'll be right where the car is that they're going to just beat up. Finally, Garvin and Precious escape up, and so it gives just a little added extra to the crowd that they saw. They think they saw a lot more than they actually did with the girls. That's kind of what I see. But now, Mike, I have to say, please don't take my Sunshine away. She is gone. This is the end of Sunshine till October. She is on sabbatical for several months. And, Garvin is the American champion. He's eaten plenty of pins so far, and especially that big one on the night before against Kerry, because that really put him in his place, seeing Garvin, who's been the American champ, lose that fast to Kerry. It's all the signs of Garvin moving on pretty soon, but, we're going to see him maybe one more time on the syndicated. He'll be a lot on the Fort Worth as they build up a loser leave match on the Fort Worth show, but that won't have much to do with the syndicated show we see. In real life, it's just been a whirlwind for Sunshine. For 15 months, she's just been going at it, and she's only 21. She had not been in the business, and what Garvin said on the shoot interviews I watched this weekend, I looked at it to see what he was saying. And, he said she just partied so hard. It got crazy. He actually said her and Buddy Roberts, it'd be a couple of days they'd go off. It's going to be referred to that she's had a mental breakdown and things like that. You can look up what's gone on with her. But, yeah, all of a sudden, that was the end of Sunshine with this Texas stadium, and we'll be a while before we see her.
Yeah, and we've cataloged it on all these shows going back to when Sunshine first comes in. So please, when you become a patron, go back and listen to even, about a year ago at this time when I want to say it was about a year ago, actually a little longer, March of 83, I guess is around the time when they came in. And it's just really good stuff as we cataloged and took the journey week by week of when Sunshine came in and Garvin is there and just everything that they do. It's a fun little story. And then the Garvin and David feud and lots of just great stuff that happened in World Class, especially as we got into that first part of 1983. I'm going to stop the video version of this right now, Lance. You and I can keep going because we're at the limit of the video version. But yeah, let's keep going. So, Lance, I hate to see that you're going to break down because your Sunshine is leaving. Lance
Sunshine is gone. I've talked about her a year and a half of what she's, we've watched every step. I've led y'all along the way, say, now watch. And this, the Valet for a Day is like where she really started shining, where it really became, wait a minute, what about Sunshine? And then for the fans to just, when the turn came and she was the jilted lover, that it was just incredible.
She was a scorned broad. Call it what it is, Lance.
There it is. She's been done wrong. It's the fans. They could never have imagined that the fans would just go to her so much as they did, because immediately, everybody was crazy about her. Everybody wanted to see her get revenge. It's just such a home run. It's a 15-month stretch. Garvin's incredible. I always think Garvin is one of those characters you look at that nobody can do now. Nobody's going to be able to create their own character and do what they're going to do in wrestling for this long, without being told what to do. Here he is. He was told to come up with that gimmick in Florida. Somebody said, you got to come up with something. And he had been wrestling around, and he came up with that. And, then pretty soon after coming up with it was when David ask him, come to Texas and we're going to do business. And it's a home run. I've said it 100 times.
What's funny is, like, I've seen it not as many times as you, but after going back through the Garvin run in World Class, and I rewatched that after I rewatched Jimmy coming into Jim Crockett Promotions, because, with our NWA Saturday Night show. So what was funny is when I went back and watched, at first, when Jimmy comes into Jim Crockett Promotions, I can't say I was a big fan. Like, I was like, in my mind, as I'm rewatching it going, there's just something missing. He's not the Jimmy Garvin that I enjoyed and just loved watching in World Class. I mean, I hated him, obviously, when I was a kid, is what I'm saying. And then, like, it grew on me watching him in Jim Crockett Promotions. I started to all of a sudden see the things there that made me like him in World Class, even though he comes in as a heel and then he becomes a babyface with the whole Ronnie Garvin thing and the cosmic fireball that Jim Cornette threw in Ronnie Garvin's face. So, like, I at one point was like, no, man, Jimmy Garvin and Jim Crockett Promotions it just doesn't work for me. But over time, after rewatching it again, I was like, no, he actually does work for me, and I kind of like him there. Where I'm not sure I like him is when he becomes a quote unquote Freebird, and that's not his fault. I'm not putting that on Jimmy's feet. This has nothing to do with me saying it's him. I just in your mind, especially in mine, but I know you especially. When you think of the Freebirds, you're thinking of Hayes, Roberts, and Gordy. Garvin probably is the last thing, but Jimmy Garvin was just such a good thing to watch, a treat. When he comes in, he's got Sunshine, who was actually Precious at the time, but he's got her, and then they break up, and hell hath no fury like a like a woman scorned. And you're right. You're going back to what you said a second ago. When Sunshine ends up being heartbroken and they knock on the door, Jimmy Garvin, and Precious is in her underwear with a dress shirt over her. It's just some really good stuff that we covered back then. And it was a fun little ride in 1983 as we went through all that, man. It was a whole lot of fun. And kudos to Jimmy Garvin, Sunshine, and Precious on that whole angle, and Adams too. I know Chris Adams isn't your favorite person, but I just wanted to point that out. I know you don't like Chris that much, but anyway, just wanted to point that out, man.
I have tried not to like Chris, but unfortunately, I can't deny him. And his feud with Garvin is so much more dynamic than in the actual matches, than he had with David. I just, him and Adams just went at it in a different level than he did with David. It was just a different, two different guys he was wrestling, but I just thought Garvin was just so great on that. I want to tell you a couple of things. Garvin says that the WWF did contact him during these World Class days, but he had seen what they had done with other NWA guys, and it really made him worry. And then NWA was wanting him, and also AWA, and he went to the AWA. And a year later, when he went to NWA, he says he always remembers that Flair and Tully were up on some stairs. It was Flair and Tully up on the stairs, and they said, "Oh, look who's here now. Where were you last year when we needed you?" And he always said that kind of made him feel like an outsider in the NWA. So that's kind of it's something right there. He was getting up there in age, anyways.
You had told me that before. I remember that, and that was weird hearing them say that, or hearing the story of them saying that. Obviously, we didn't hear them say it. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's I don't know.
In interviews, Garvin, and he said this years ago, and I don't know what he gets at. He makes himself out like in the locker room he's not scared to say anything and that he was wild. But I don't hear any of those stories. He always says, "Oh, they wouldn't give a title to a guy like me. I was too wild." He says a lot of that stuff. I don't really know any examples. What Garvin's dad was the police chief in Tampa and died really early. And so by the time he was he had gone and trained with Mike Graham in a little wrestling club, a real amateur club. And the first time he was interviewed by Gordon Soley was when he was 9 years old. So he felt like he was a part of the group. I guess he did feel like he could always talk and say what he wanted behind the scenes. He wrestled Lou Thez, Danny Hodge, and Buddy Rogers, all three. And that's pretty wild, that he wrestled all three of those guys. He's had a hell of a career,
dude. That's crazy when you think about it. The names you just mentioned.
It really is. I just wanted to go back to the Texas Stadium show for just a second. I talked for weeks that, the pageantry of Texas Stadium and all that. Well, it all got cut out. What we missed Ralph Pulley saying "God Bless America." Miss Texas sang American Trilogy, which, man, that must have been long on that day. I can't remember her singing it. I know that, that somebody sang, but they, I probably was gone to get a drink or something. And then a young girl named Jill Floyd sang "Heaven Needed a Champion," which was written by Glenn Goza. And Glenn Goza is the guy on the front row of this whole show that we've been watching that's wearing white with a red maroon vest. And he's sitting in front row, and we don't get to hear his wonderful rendition, but we will at the Cotton Bowl in a few months get to hear him sing "Rasslin'," Rasslin, at the Cotton Bowl. So we've got that treat to look forward to. It is horrible.
Oh, come on, Lance. Not that bad, huh?
It's pretty bad. The girl who sang in there, who sang "Heaven Needed a Champion," his song in there was a girl named Jill Floyd. And she went on to her brother, who just passed away, was in the movie with Willie Nelson. It was called Honeysuckle Rose. And her and her brother toured with Willie for a little while and everything. And she was in a review show that's out here between Fort Worth and Dallas called the Johnny High Review. And that's also where Leanne Rimes came out of, and a guy I went to school with who made it kind of big in country music. He had been part of their review out there in Arlington, Texas. But we miss all the singing, but that's okay. I didn't mind too much.
Yeah, we'll get to see Glenn Goza sing wrestling, like Lance said, and I've heard that a million times.
Yeah, that's one of those embarrassing things where people say, "Oh, wrestling," they always remember that.
RASSLIN, that's wrestling.
Man.
My Mid-South co-host, the great Brian Lass, has played that one numerous times on the 605 Super Podcast over the years. So
the live version is horrible at Cotton Bowl because he can't hear the monitors and he's off with it, and it's just it's terrible. But I got to say, I couldn't be more excited about Gino coming into the area. Whole new world. Now we're going to see one more match from this show is Kamala and Kabuki on the next episode, and that's one of the most interesting stuff, newsworthy thing to come out of this show is what's going to go on with Kabuki and Kamala.
Which we're going to get into on the next World Class episode. That's on the May 26, 1984 episode, because what happens is they air that match with Kamala Kabuki, and then we go to the Sportatorium for the remainder of that episode, which that episode actually has a rematch of Ric Flair and Kerry on it. We won't spoil the results, though, here, even though it was in 1984. I don't know, Lance, this was fun, man. I know you've been waiting for this for a while. This was a huge show, obviously, one of the biggest ones, and that's why we wanted to do this one on the free feed. So as a bonus show, kind of give you a taste of what goes on our World Class show and all the knowledge that Lance brings. You all heard Lance the last couple of weeks on the NWA show, but I wanted Lance to I think we did this at Christmas time last year as well, but I wanted Lance to do this show with me here on the free feed as a bonus episode to give you a taste of our World Class show and everything that goes on there, because Lance really does a great job of sharing his historical knowledge of World Class. The thing was, I'm not kidding, the man was there Friday nights or whatever night a lot in the Sportatorium watching many of the tapings that we cover. And we're in 84, so we got a number of years to go with this World Class thing. So if you enjoyed this, please become a patron. tinyurl.com/patreonbtt. It is a great way to support this show on an ongoing basis. Like I said, there's over 160 plus Patreon only exclusive episodes that you will enjoy. If you just want the World Class shows, you can sign up for $2 a month and you can get the World Class shows. If you want to do a little bit more at the $5 tier, we have tons of other stuff. We've done some ECW shows lately, or an ECW show. We did an AWA show, plus our Jim Crockett Promotions and Clash of Champions pay-per-views, or the Jim Crockett Promotions pay-per-views and the Clash of Champions in 1988. We're getting ready to start doing those as we get to them on our NWA Saturday Night show. So I wanted to mention that. It's a great way to support the show if you do become a patron. And sign up on Patreon. Like I said, it's a great thing. Also, don't forget to use our Amazon referral link. It's tinyurl.com/BTT Amazon. Another great way to support the show. So if you're buying wrestling books or anything and everything off of Amazon, like Bobby Blizz's book, Pin Me, Pay Me, or Death of the Territories by Tim Hornbaker, use our referral link. It's tinyurl.com/BTT Amazon. And again, the show gets a small amount of proceeds in return when you use that link, and it does help what we do here. Production costs, software costs, all that stuff that goes into making this show. Lance, I think I'm winded now. Did I miss anything in the plugs, or did I miss anything on this show? Or tell the people where to find you also on Twitter, I should say.
I think we've got it. And, SMU, Lance Peterson at SMU Heavyweight on Twitter, and I'll have a ton of stuff up the 1st of May coming up with these Texas stadiums, all the Texas stadiums. I went to 5 of them, 84 through 88. There were 2 others. I got a couple of pictures from those. I wasn't there in 72 or 76 or 82. I forget about 82 a lot. So, I'll put the programs up. I'm going to actually put programs up from the night after Kerry won. I'm never looking for programs, but I actually bought 2 programs this last year. The Fort Worth show that Kerry, carries the belt into, and then the next episode, the one where he fights Flair at the Sportatorium. I actually bought the program for that. And that kind of tops off my collection. I'm not looking for too much more stuff. I've got way too much already. But I hope everybody had a good time. We're really going to start the second half of the heyday. Starts with the next episode.
Yeah, it's going to be fun getting into it, man, as we get into the middle of 1984 and beyond. So Plenty of good stuff to come in World Class. I was going to mention when World Class starts to decline, but we're not at that point at this stage.
No, we got a hell of a year coming up in 84, the rest of 84, 85. The dynamic duo. Gino coming in, it really gets me motivated for these shows because it's something new.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, dude.
We got plenty more Reunion Arena stuff at the end of the year. A couple reunion shows. There's going to be a couple now after this Texas Stadium show. They do a couple at in Fort Worth at the Convention Center that aren't really focused that much on the syndicated show, but the main events will be up. They'll be usually Fort Worth was always about the 6-man tags. That's what Fort Worth really was. And, we've seen the Von Erichs Freebirds a million times now, but now we're going to start seeing maybe these Bad Street matches. We still didn't see Kerry. We didn't see all 6 of the young guys. We saw Fritz in it, and we also haven't seen a Tornado. So they've got some more steps to add to it. And then, this will be about maybe Chris Adams. We'll just see what's going on with him.
Yeah,
because he's going to languish for a little while.
Well, and I wanted to say something you were talking about just now. You talk about the Fort Worth show. So a lot of people out there who are listening to this, everything on the WWE Network is the Sportatorium show. But what Lance brings to the World Class show that we do on Patreon is he talks about what's going on also to tie in what's going on at the Fort Worth show, because there was a show opposite. You have the World Class Sportatorium show, I'll call it, the syndicated. But then there was also a show that came on Saturday nights in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Lance has a lot of background on those shows. So he kind of talks about what's going on with all the angles there. That way, the syndicated show that we review makes more sense. Did I say that right, Lance?
Yeah, it's incredible. And for example, a guy like Johnny Mantell, who was actually protected pretty good on the syndicated show. If you watch the Saturday night show, we saw him wrestle 3 times as much as if you just watch the syndicated, and we saw him lose a lot more and things like that. So you have a different view if you watch those shows. Those were much slower show. They were mid-card matches, not exactly squashes all the time, but mid-card main events, if you will. And they also, that show drove the local house shows. So there were always, the stars always did interviews on those shows, and that's where a ton of the angles actually happened, because if something happened at the Sportatorium, it took a week or two to find out, 2 weeks to 3 weeks to find out, compared to the Fort Worth show where something happened. It was filmed on Monday, and that Saturday it aired. So I always, and Mark Lawrence hosted it. Mark, I always call him more of a storyteller than Bill Mercer, because Mark had to sell the individual shows and give you all the exact details of how you were supposed to be viewing each angle. During a match, Mark's telling you exactly how we should feel. And I don't see it, Mercer didn't do that at all.
Well, and we just were talking about how earlier in this episode, we were talking about how Lawrence called. We had both mentioned how he was really good and we thought he was so much better. And that's really part of it. He was a better narrator of what was going on storyline wise than Bill Mercer was. Mercer, and it kind of wasn't his fault, just the way the tapings were. So I don't want to blame Bill Mercer, because we love Bill Mercer. But Mark Lawrence was much better at narrating the angles and stories. Is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, and I like Mercer more, having gone through these matches with you the last year and a half, than I originally did as a kid. I didn't think much of him, and then he kind of been made fun of on the internet like everything else. He's not as bad as I remember him. There's a few places, but he can't help it. He's not doing commentary down at ringside. I don't know if Bill was doing it more in the studio, or he was doing, a lot of times he was doing it up at the aisle and he couldn't see what was happening in the ring. Mark's just, he's right there on it.
And he's better at,
yeah, that's what I mean. He's just on it in all kinds of ways. I think it is. Mercer just has the name locally here in Dallas, still does. I think he's 92. He's, professor emeritus up in North Texas State University, or University of North Texas now, in communications. So, he's got a big influence here. He'll be on the Ranger game, Texas Rangers baseball game. He'll be on there once a year. They'll interview him because he did, local sports in the area for so long, and he's known. And they'll always mention the wrestling, so that's kind of neat. I always try to catch that. Luckily, Twitter, it'll say, "Oh, Bill Mercer's going to be on tonight," and it'll be the one time in the middle of the summer that he's on a on a game, and that's pretty cool.
I hear you there.
I have got
like
to meet Mark at a few shows and stuff, and he's been very nice to me and everything.
So real quick, I totally agree with your assessment. Just Mark is just so much better. I mean, it's really hard to explain. But and again, we're not talking bad on Mercer. It's just the way Mark Lawrence calls it and narrates the action as far as the storylines that are going on with the guys is what we're pointing at. But so is Mercer still like working, Lance?
When they get that that tenure at a college, I don't know that he's actually going into a class.
You said something about the Rangers.
I mean, and he's got teachers assistants doing it and stuff, but he's pretty old.
You said something about the Rangers.
Yeah, he's always on the Ranger game each year. The Texas Ranger game, our local guys, have been there forever. It's a guy, Tom Grieve, he played with the Rangers, came to the Rangers, when the Rangers came to Arlington. He was the general manager, and he's still doing TV. I thought he'd retired a little bit, but he was on the Ranger game yesterday, and they'll, have him as a guest in the booth once a year. Bill Mercer, that is.
Gotcha.
And so, that's pretty neat. They'll have him on there. Kind of a throwback.
Yeah. I was confused when you said that. I was like, really? I don't remember that, but no. I hear you.
Oh yeah. Last 2 or 3 years they've had Mercer come on there.
Okay. Well, Lance, anything else before we get out of here?
Man, I think I'm giving you all I got. I can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, man. So basically what Lance and I do is almost, I'll say almost, we may have missed here and there, but it's not often. We do these pretty much every 2 weeks. So most of the time what we do is we take 2 episodes, sometimes 3, and we'll do a world-class episode. We call it the World Class Cast, and it's every 2 weeks they basically drop. Don't hold us to it, but essentially that's basically what you get. And to this date, Doc and Harper and I actually started at the end of 1982 before the Von Erich and Freebird feud popped off. If you remember Christmas Star Wars of 82 when Gordy slammed the cage door on Kerry's head. We started a little bit before that, and then Lance jumped on board with me in January of 83 since he's the expert and Doc isn't. Yeah, that's a shot at Doc. When it comes to world class, Lance and I have been doing this since then, so we're about a year and a half in with just Lance and I, and about a year and 9 months or so, a little bit. Actually, I say a year and a half. We're about a year. Lance and I are about a year and a half into it, and the rest of us, Doc and Harper and I, we started, like I said, around November or October of 82. So lots of world class shows. If world class is your territory, to look back and watch along with, and do some reviews and have fun as we catalog the great years of World Class Championship.
You'd think I'd be a better broadcaster by having done it a year and a half by now.
You're 10 times better than me. I was going to put that out.
I'm always hard on myself. If anybody's just starting out with us, I recommend that April 1st, 83 show at the State Fair Coliseum, reviewing that, or listening to our show on the June 17th Reunion Arena show. I think we really did a good job with the Kevin and Harley race episode. I think that it was really great. And then there's the of course the country whipping match that's in November of 83 that I just think are some of our best shows. They were the best times in world class, fun stuff, but you can just start at the beginning and go from there.
Yeah, lots of fun though, man, just to be honest with you. So
Mike just picked me up out of nowhere, just like Garvin did Sunshine, and
okay. No, I don't know if it was like that, but it was kind of like that. So
I don't know that I'm the home run she is, or Precious, or what Missy Hyde will be.
You're definitely not. But
I don't know that I'll be a home run like that. But I'm just trying to spit it all out. You'll see those early episodes. I'm just trying to say everything I can possibly say in every episode, and I've calmed down just a little until I got to this episode where I had a lot to say.
Well, with that said, we're going to get out of here now. Lance, why don't you steal Harper's tagline and let's get out of here.
Book it, bitch.